So let me ask you guys this yet. You guys have a catchphrase for the show yet? Do you
Not
have
yet.
I mean, it may emerge, right?
Yeah.
But something that is like that's your
Yeah.
tagline every show that you wrap
Yeah.
with, because it really has that, it's not the magic that makes it work, but it's the work that makes the magic,
Yeah.
right?
I love that.
Yeah.
I did it was on the last video, like Peace had JJ and I do thank you for following us,
Yeah.
so he had it. JJ got his in the first take. It took me like 6 takes because
It didn't take you 6 takes.
it did take me.
So
it took
here's
me a
my
lot.
tagline that I like to use a lot. You have to work real hard to make things look easy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
I
that's
think
true.
That explains.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
People make something look easy. There's probably a lot of hard work behind it.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
it is very
I
true.
might steal that.
You can
Like
steal it.
You can't steal it.
Yeah, I can.
He's gonna use it on this before. Like it's gonna be who does it first.
You always say
We're-
like
all the three of
you
us
always
are
say
gonna
like
start
Mike
laughing.
Goldsby says.
Welcome to another episode of Unscripted with JJ and Jamie. Today we have a special guest and we have Dr. Goldsby with us. And if you've heard of our story about our MVP journey, you have heard about Dr. Goldsby and the impact that he has had on MVP and the growth at MVP. So first of all, welcome to our show.
Thank you. Welcome.
I was so excited when I knew that you was going to be down here in Florida and could be on our show. So thank you.
Hey, you're welcome. And I listen to the show. I'm a fan of the show, and I'm a fan of MVP for many years. So it's a great honor to be on your show.
Well, we are so delighted to have you. Would you care to share how, I've told the story of how we've met, but would you mind to share with our friends? how
Sure.
we met?
So I'm an entrepreneurship professor, and I've taught, for many years and write books and do research. And I'm also a Disney fan. I love Disney. And I've always thought Disney was really great at combining the creativity and business together. And so I've always liked them as a model of amazing entrepreneurship and the history of it. So I was at the Persimmon Festival, which is in Mitchell, Indiana. It's our big annual festival, huge festival. And because it's big, they have a tent with all these companies and all these different vendors. And I go into the tent, and there's all this activity, and I'm not really seeing too much that really gets my attention. But there near the entrance, when I was coming around near the end of it, because I made my full loop, I saw this table, and I saw Disney, and I saw MVP, and I saw you. And you were standing there, and you had this energy and this vibrancy, and I thought, I want to go talk to her. She looks interesting. I want to hear what she's got to say. And we started talking, and the way you came across, and the way that you talked about your company, and keep in mind the company was very small at that time, probably not much bigger than that table, right?
Right, it was small.
Very small. But I can spot talent, and I thought, she's got talent, she's got something there, and I want to know more. And so we started staying in touch, and then you helped me put together some trips to Disney, and I saw how you did things, and from there we developed a relationship. My first group down here to Disney from Ball State that we took a trip, you organized it and set it all up, and that was great. And I think maybe I was one of your first big groups that you scheduled.
was.
And I will tell you, she was extremely nervous.
I was.
Yeah, she was nervous.
I maybe
but-
didn't show it, but
Yeah.
I was super nervous.
Absolutely, but she's always done things with such passion.
She has.
She puts everything into it. So.
Yeah, and to build on that, we did that for quite a while, and at Ball State, like any big organization, there's all this bureaucracy, and they had all these different channels that they said they had to go through. Somebody away from me tried to direct it elsewhere, and you said you talked to somebody from Ball State, and they said, "Lady, I don't know who you are, but you're really important to Mike Goldsby."
She said, I don't know who you are, but you are very important to Mike. And I laughed. I said, really? And she's like, oh yeah, like he went to bat, and he said, we're doing this with Jamie. And
Yeah.
so that made me feel really good.
Yeah.
But it's so funny because I tell the story and JJ tells the story, because JJ's always told me you have something special. You know, it's kind of like when your parents tell you, you have a talent, you're special. But to have someone like you know, you're head of the entrepreneurship program. We went to the same high school. You was a little bit older than me. You was closer to my brother's age. So I knew who you was. And I knew like that you had accomplished so many amazing things. But to have you tell me that I had something special, I think I didn't even know at the time. Like I've always had a big vision, you know, and it's like always bigger than life. Everything that I've done is just always bigger and better. But I don't know if you've heard this story, but sometimes we would get on the phone and we would talk, and you would kind of coach and say things, or I would say, this is what is this normal? And you always, like, you just had a way with always making me feel good. And you said, I was driving JJ's truck that day to work, and I didn't want you to know that I was in the car, because I was like, that wasn't really that professional for me to be on a business call in the truck. And so I kept the car running. And so I sit out for probably an hour and out in the car. And you said to me, what's stopping you from being the best CEO in the travel industry? And do you remember what I said to you? Like, you maybe don't remember, but
no, I don't.
I said, oh, you know, that's really nice of you, but like my grammar's terrible, my spelling's terrible. And you came back at me and you said, well, a lot of entrepreneurs like are dyslexic.
Yeah.
They have reading disorders and things. And so you have a way of just spitting out so much knowledge and so many things to make me feel like you gave me permission to be a good CEO.
Well, and I could see it. I mean, like I said, I spot talent. And in entrepreneurship, there's a few things that you just said that is backed up by the research. And one is, and I think it's really important, we downplay this idea, but I think it's really important to entrepreneurs, ambition. You wanted to accomplish something. You wanted to build this company into something. You had a vision, okay? And that's the other thing, a vision. And the willingness to work hard for that and sacrifice. And I think once you got the self-belief that came from JJ and from me as well, and then others down the line like Lee Cockrell, who got involved in your entrepreneurial journey, and you got bigger, then you started to believe it yourself. I think you're now at a point in your entrepreneurial journey where you do have that belief, and we call it self-efficacy. You now know what you can do that we all spotted, and I also applaud you for taking the coaching from people like JJ and me and Lee Cockrell and Dan Cockrell and others who have given you advice and coaching, and you've taken that. And I think where I've been helpful to you is in two ways. I come from Mitchell, Indiana, so I have a way that we talked about where you can get along with just about anybody, right? So I can get across things, communicate them pretty clearly, I think, coming from Mitchell. But the other thing is, I've got a lot of years as a researcher, so I know what the research says, and I can always tell you, like we did yesterday, talking about turnover and things like that. I know the numbers. It's like when you're going through something, I say, Jamie, that's to be expected, or Jamie, the next thing that's going to happen in your career is going to be this, because this is just what happens for thousands and thousands of entrepreneurs.
Many times.
Yeah.
I told you yesterday, I think I texted it to you, and I said, I don't think you know how many times JJ and I have said, this is what Dr. Goldsby said will happen.
Yeah, prepared us for
you
these
prepared, because I don't read books like you, like you or Lee or Dan, and I'm not a big avid reader. Like, I'm like, hey, Dr. Goldsby, give me the condensed version of what I need to know.
Exactly.
And you know, it's like, so I think that's what makes it so easy for me is you guys are giving me the tools that I need. I don't need to do the research, and I'm like. My biggest question is always, is this normal? And I asked JJ the other day, I said, because I was experiencing some emotions that were new to me, and I said, when you played ball, like, did you ever feel this inadequacy? Like logic tells me this is successful, but why do I sometimes feel like I'm a failure, you know? Yeah. And he said, well, share what you said about having a good game, or, you know.
Well, I said, of course you would. You know, I felt those things. I said, you know, but I never wanted to tell you because I didn't want to have you wary and be filled with anxiety and things like that. But, you know, it's so different if you don't win a game over in Europe or South America. You know, at times the teams decide not to pay you. That brings on a lot of stress and anxiety. Yeah. You know, if you have a good game, but the team loses, you can't share that with anyone because then they think you're selfish. You're only worried about yourself. If you have a bad game and the team loses, then you don't want to go outside because everybody's asking you what happened. You know, why didn't you play well? Well, it's because the way you play, the team didn't win, you know. So there's a lot of different things that bring on that stress and anxiety that you've got to deal with whenever you're an entrepreneur. And I've always considered myself, you know, an entrepreneur. You know, leaving the country when I was 23 to go and live in all these different places around the world and having to depend on what I do, how I perform, how I react, how I build relationships, all that is a part of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, totally.
So one of the things that we were talking about, JJ and I, was how people, I don't think, when you said to me that I was an entrepreneur, I was like, I am? I was doing this for like 5 years before I even really, and you said yes, and you told me, well, an entrepreneur is doing what you know, what you love and creating something, and that's what you're doing. You said, this is what I teach the students, like you are doing it.
Yeah.
And I think that JJ, as we've, you know, just kind of embraced it, you know, we see that, like, whether you're in a rock band, you're an athlete, you're a movie star, you have a business, like, it's all entrepreneurship, you know. And I think that, you know, I think 15, 20 years ago, people weren't really talking about it like that. They weren't really talking about entrepreneurship and what it is. I still to this day can't spell it, though. I still can't spell entrepreneur.
And I always wish there was a different word for it.
Yeah, and it's like, and I always, like, the spell check always gets me and I laugh. I was like, here I'm this successful entrepreneur and I still can't spell it.
Well, there's one thing you've always said to me, you know, when it comes to sports and entrepreneurship, you always said, use basketball and don't let basketball use you.
Exactly.
And
100%.
I think now today, with college sports and NIL, which is name, image, and likeness, now you see at the college level, these kids are becoming entrepreneurs. They're using the talents and the things that they have to drive their businesses, to run their businesses.
Can you imagine where they'll be in 20 years?
Absolutely.
Right.
Just, it's going to be crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, the thing is, like, going back to, you know, myself being in the research, so I'm out there looking at, they call it generalizability. I look at a whole bunch of people, right, and I see these trends. So along your journeys, I've been able to, when you're at a point, I'm like, yep, that's expected, and the next thing's going to be this, and then it's going to be that. And then I think when you understand that, you go, there's nothing wrong with me. This is part of it. It's part of the development.
I think that's one of the hardest things is we don't really know anybody that's been on this journey quite like this, other than you, or, you know, it's like you can say, this is in the studies that I've found, this is very normal, because I think sometimes just having someone say, it's okay, this is normal, because I think I told you the other day, I said, I felt like my bubble, like sometimes like my magical little bubble that I live in, it just seems like it's overwhelming. And then we went, you know, and spent some time in a park with somebody, and it's like, you know, like, my little bubble is so little, you know, and their bubble in retrospect is bigger than my bubble, but it's still like my daily life isn't affected by what is going on in his bubble or their bubble.
Yeah. And,
you know, I think just sometimes having somebody, and like I said, so with JJ, when he tells me it's okay, it's okay. It's kind of like,
it's like a basketball player that's played 14 years telling their own kid how to play basketball. The kid doesn't listen.
Yeah.
But as soon as they go down the street and somebody else says the same exact thing, then they listen to that. So.
And we always talk about that, because he'll always say, I've been telling you that. I'm like, I know, but you know how Dwayne never listened to you, but he would listen to somebody that that didn't even play in college, but, you know, is that it's.
So I can't share something I've never told you before.
Absolutely.
I don't know if I should be saying this.
No, it's okay.
Because it's giving away me and JJ's secret. I'm breaking some confidentiality here.
Oh, I love it.
But there have been times where you've been working on dealing with something, and we talk.
Oh.
And we work as a team to help you.
Haven't
we done that? You've called me before.
Yes, absolutely.
And said, I think you need to call Jamie and help her with this right now.
Absolutely.
Because there may just be.
He knows I need help. It takes a village with me.
It's not
it doesn't surprise me.
It's not that you need help. It's understanding that what you're hearing is coming from me, and I need it to come from somebody else.
And I kind of validate it.
Yes, absolutely.
It's like you got validation.
Right.
And I think that's what we're always doing, right? Like the more, the more we can get validations
Yeah.
that line up and go, okay, I can
Yeah.
do something with this now.
Well, it's so funny because it's so funny because that does not surprise me because I am work in progress. Like and you said something a minute ago that like I'm willing to listen to the coaching because sometimes I'm not, but I really am. Like even if I'm
Yeah.
acting like I'm not listening, sometimes it just has to sink
Sure.
in, and then I'm like, okay.
It's in there, and then
It's in there.
down the line a little bit, something comes up, and you go, okay, I
Yeah.
see it. I see
Yeah,
what this is.
sometimes it might take a couple weeks
It
for
might.
her to,
Yeah.
for it
Right.
to sink in.
Gotta process it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think the scariest part about entrepreneurship is the not knowing.
Oh, yeah.
Like, because I don't like surprises, but entrepreneurship is nothing but surprises. It's a surprise at every door. It's a surprise at every turn. And I always say we pivot. We pivot well. And you asked me yesterday if I ever do like a State of the Union or a yearly
Yeah, right.
recap, and you said it's maybe something you should consider. And I said, but we change so fast. It's like sometimes that turns out to appear that like we're always changing for the bad or like, and I'm like, so I always hate putting a year goal out there
Yeah.
because what I say is going to look like in a year, like it never looks like that because we pivot. Like I pivot pretty fast.
Well, let's go. Let's go
I
back.
like to
Yeah.
say evolving.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
We do that because we're evolving.
Yeah.
exactly. Totally. So let's look at the Disney example, okay? Because we all like Disney. They'll have every year the announcements about new things in the parks, and it gets everybody excited, and it gives people an idea about things that might be like Disney Forward is coming,
Yeah.
right? But we also know that sometimes they'll announce an attraction that's going to come out, and they don't build it.
Yeah.
They do that sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So it's okay, I get people excited. You got a general idea about where you're going,
Yeah.
but you may not hold 100% to it. But I think it gives people an idea about what the next year holds
Yeah.
for them, right? So,
I
yeah,
love it. But I also get really nervous talking in front of large crowds. Like it doesn't seem like I do, but
you're
I
talking
really
to thousands and millions of people right now.
I know, but like the thought of actually like speaking to like this week we have our annual conference
Yeah.
and I will be speaking to a smaller group of like maybe 120, but and I don't know, like I just get really nervous and I don't read off of scripts. Like it just doesn't feel natural to me, and every time I've tried to do it, it comes across as so unnatural. And so I always like to just speak from the heart. But the danger of that, and we've said that, like the biggest asset, but also the biggest liability, because if I say the wrong thing or I say, it's like,
Yeah.
I always worry about, it used to not matter. Like I could used to just talk freely, and now it's like every word I say matters. And that's a weird place for me.
Well, I'll give you, a story. Walt Disney, I wrote a book on Walt Disney, and, he was famous for the Wonderful World of Disney and being on TV, right? He didn't want to be on TV.
Yeah.
He didn't want to. He liked being behind the scenes, actually, and they told him, you really need to get out there. And now look, he's one of the most famous TV personalities of all time because we saw him every Sunday night, as a kid.
Yeah.
So I told you, I'm sure we both are telling you this, that we know you can get up there and do this. And when you're on stage, and at this conference, this MVP conference, there's an energy there. I said it's like Oppenheimer. It's an atomic blast when you guys are up there, and there's so much energy and so much excitement. And when you're up there, I really think you're in your element. I mean, now we all second guess ourselves later and we critique, but as an audience member and watching that, they respond to you. They love your story and they love you. I think you're great on stage.
Thank you. JJ is so much better on stage
Oh,
than I am.
he's amazing.
Good. He's good.
Yeah, he's amazing.
He's
No,
good.
I disagree. I think your stage presence is not matched.
Oh, I
I
don't
don't
know.
think
Like
it
he gets you
The-
fired
the
up
one-
though.
the
Like
one
he
thing
gets you
that
fired up.
The one thing that you just mentioned, and you are right, and I think this is one of your biggest assets, is that you do speak from the heart.
That's right.
And when you say things, you mean it.
Yep.
They feel it.
But sometimes
You're
it's
passionate about that.
but sometimes it goes left, and then I actually tell people how I really, and it sometimes comes off as negative, but it's never not what I feel. Like
But
it's always what I
it's
feel.
always honest.
It's always honest.
It's authentic and truthful.
Yeah, it's always
Absolutely.
honest.
Yeah.
And
And
I
that's an
even
asset.
I told Mike Mike McCracken, the other Mike.
The other Mike, yeah.
I I said, we're going to be talking tomorrow to some of our team leaders. And you know, the question is, do we accept questions? And he's like, you know, you never really know. And I said, you know, I said, there's not a question that's out there that I would feel like I need to back away from. You know, I said, I feel like whatever anybody wants to ask, like I feel like I can, unless it's like something legal that I can't like legally say, you know, and he's like, well, you know yourself better than any of the rest of us. And so, you know, I don't know what we're going to do. It's, you know, it's up in the air, but, you know, I think that it's always, because like, even though we are big, like it's still a small, like it's still a small feel.
Yeah.
Like it's still small. Even a room of 120, it's a small, what I like to think is a small feel.
Well, and I think it's neat because your agents, you were agent number 1. So when you're talking
Ground
to them,
zero.
ground zero. When you were talking to them, when you talk to them, you know what they're dealing with, and the whole system of MVP to make that easier for them than it was for you, right? To give them that support that you didn't have at that time. I mean, that you've built a company, but it's all based at ground zero, and they know that. You know, they know that you're not somebody coming in from the outside that doesn't have knowledge of what their challenges are. You've done those challenges, and so I think that's a big part too. That they're like, she's one of us.
We tease her quite a bit when we say, when we'll ask a question or we'll seek some guidance from her, and she will say to her, you know what you know, just give us you know what you know exactly what the advisors are going through, what they're dealing with, you know their needs, you know what you know. So, you know, I think that's again one of her biggest values and her biggest asset, that she has been in their footsteps.
Totally.
You know, right there with them. So I have a question for you, because Ball State has done 3 different case studies.
Right.
You know, on the company.
Yeah.
And helped us quite a bit, you know, especially in the early stages. So did you ever think, what was your thought about MVP, the size that we might get to, or, you know, what we might be able to achieve?
Yeah,
when you guys did the studies.
So with the journey, you really don't know where exactly it's going to go, right? But you know it's going to go somewhere, right? And I would say that what the ultimate outcome, no idea. But knowing what the next stage was going to be, had a pretty good idea. So when we would meet, you know, we meet every year and get together, and then been doing that for, golly, at least 15 years, at least.
Yes.
At least.
And then we talk on the phone and we text and we get together when we can. And about every year there's a next stage we're trying to get to.
Is.
And I'd say we probably have an idea. I probably had a pretty good idea about every 5 years, what a 5-year, but a 20-year plan. No idea.
Wow.
But where you were, I was pretty darn sure, going way back, where you were about, say, 3 to 5 years ago. I was pretty confident you could get to that. And if you had gotten to where you were 3 or 5 years ago, huge success. I mean, we're talking about you were the little operation in Mitchell, right? So to get to Orlando, like I think it was a goal. Get to Orlando, get to where the hospitality capital is. Be there among that network. I thought, okay, if you can get to that, then you've made it. You've made it, because it's like being a singer and getting to Vegas. You made it, right? But from there, my advice was get there, and then you're going to start meeting people and all that. But you had to do all those stages. You didn't just go to Orlando in 2010, right? You did all those stages to get to where it made sense to go to Orlando. So I think Orlando was the goal, unspoken, but that made the most, in my mind, that made the most sense. You did it. And then I knew once you were here that things were going to start happening. You were going to meet those people, and you were going to, you know, there were going to be the conversations and the relationships building, which is happening. And I think now from Orlando, to be honest, it's global now.
Yes.
It's global, because you're now meeting people who are global.
Right.
Who knows where it goes in the next 5 to 10 years.
And that's why I asked you the question, because I think about all the advisors, the entrepreneurs that's going to be here, you know, at the conference, and it's going to hear us talk, and they're in the same positions that we were in, from the early beginning. They can't see, where the road is going to take them at the time, but being able to listen and believe and hear stories of a number of advisors that was back in those, that it's all the same story.
It is.
It's all the same story.
And going back to the beginnings, we knew that the early days, the 5-year plan was because Jamie was dealing with clients. You were dealing with clients. You were dealing with me and others and clients, and doing such a great job building up the customer satisfaction. But we knew that you had to replicate yourself, and that was a 5-year plan. And JJ worked really hard with you on that, on the systems to get a replication of you. And then we found key agents who had qualities. Courtney.
We need to get more Courtneys.
We need to get more Courtneys. It's like, so tell me, and you said, Courtney, I've got this superstar Courtney. And we said, how might MVP develop more Courtneys, right? Well, how might we get more Courtneys? And that became a model. And then we got to that. And then there were other great agents, right, that came up. And it was, okay, so that was like the 5-year plan was to get you to where it was beyond Jamie, right? And then it was get more Courtneys. But then it was get the reach nationally, get outside of Lawrence County and start getting more nationally, become a national company. And I'd say the stage you're in now is going back to the very first thing we said was, how might you become the best CEO that you can be?
Right.
And I think now your CEO development is happening because companies do this. They're entrepreneurial, but they do move into being large organizations that need a CEO approach as well, right? Because the CEO is got to be thinking about the vision, got to be working with units, has to be figuring out what their stamp's going to be on the industry, because now people know you. You're not sneaking up on them.
Right. We were under the radar for so long.
Exactly.
When we did NASCAR, I think that was when I said we're above the radar.
Yeah.
So not having to do all that day-to-day grind.
Right.
Working on the framework, of the organization, and how it's going to operate, how the pieces and parts are going to move, and how they're going to work together.
That's it.
So I think some of the feedback, though, from like the agents that's been with us for a long time is like it appears that I'm just kind of moving back, and I mean, we have a new grandchild, so it's like if you look at my social media, it looks like I'm just kind of doing this or doing it doesn't look like I'm doing the CEO things, but it's still happening. Like I'm still very involved. So how could I, as a CEO, still maintain that? And I know with the State of the Union or like the address to the agents, that would be one thing, but like what could I do better to let the agents know, like I still am, like I'm still making the decisions, I'm still
hot and heavy.
Extremely a little bit more hot and heavy than I think that they would, even imagine. But
so
I've done a good job at making it look easy.
Right.
You said, what was the saying you said earlier? Like it's hard to make things look easy.
Yes.
So you have to work really hard to make things work easy.
Yes.
So that's kind of a Mike Goldsby motto that I use a lot, because it's behind the scenes stuff, right? But here's the deal. Here's a challenge for you. When you make things look easy, people don't realize how hard you're working. Right. So they've got it easy. It's like, no, you're actually, so you've got to let them know somehow that all these things you're doing out behind the scenes, right? And then people get it. They get it, go, oh, so it's like I'm doing all these things to help advance the company, because you're all going to benefit from this. If I take the company in this direction, we all win here.
Right.
The company wins, So I think there's two elements to it, and I think it's communication. And if you want to know, when I go into companies and advise them, it'll be a technology issue, it might be this issue. 99% of the time ends up being a communication issue, 99% of the time. And so that State of the Union address is to tell people, this is what I'm working on. This is, okay, so when you don't see me, this is what I'm working on. So like I write books. This morning, before coming into this podcast, I was up at 7:30 working on my book. I'm at Disney, and I'm working on a book. It's like, but when the book comes out, people, oh, he's a good writer. It just, no, I'm at 7:30 in the morning at Disney, working on my book. I'll be on the airplane tomorrow, working on my book. That's the things that people don't see.
Right.
They don't see all the hours that I'm working on my book, right? Or all the hours I'm putting into something. They don't know that. So you've got to communicate to them that we're working towards this. When you don't see me, know that I'm working on this. But then along the way, when you achieve something towards that, something happens, you want to tie it back to that message. Go, remember when I gave my State of the Union, or whatever you want to call it, and I told you we're going here, we just did this to get there.
Yeah.
So you're kind of, because we all do this. We're high achievers. We're busy people, and we're into our stuff. And we oftentimes forget that people are watching us, and people are, wondering, do they still remember us? You say, I'm doing this stuff so we can all win, and today we just did something that's going to get us to whatever it was that you're pointing towards. So I think now you're in the CEO role, to where you're not in the daily operations as much, but you're determining things that filter down. And I would tell you this, that every organization, and you guys are great leaders. I mean, I write about you in my books. I tell everybody about you because I admire both of you. I think you're a good example. And but I always talk about organizations down to the tiniest details. Even getting ready for this podcast is working with your crew. It comes from the top. Now, you may not have it directly told your team what to do today, but this stuff was set up down through. And if you're not on your game, your people down here are not on their game, right? And it filters out. If you're on your game, they're on their game. If you're not on your game, they're not going to be on their game.
Right.
But you want to keep sending that message that I and we are on our game right now. In fact, the best days are ahead. All the hard work we've done, the best things are still to come. And then communicate each time something comes along, we're getting closer to that thing we talked about.
Yeah.
That's a CEO.
Yeah, I think like sometimes I just identify as an agent. Like I'm like, I think I said that to you earlier, which I think that maybe that's why I do lead differently than, because every meeting I go in, and JJ will say this, like the first question that I'll ask my staff if they come to an idea, I'm like, how is that going to help Sally in Texas? How is that going to help? Like it's not complicated what I do. I mean, I'm not solving world issues, I mean, it's simple. My priority is our agents, and we work for our agents. And I think that's a different mindset than a lot of CEOs are like, oh, you work for me. And it's like, no, but it's that servant's, like we have a servant's vision, I think. And I think that's hard to get across to people because it is opposite of what, a lot of businesses are set up. And it's crazy from going back to that time that we met at the Persimmon Festival. And I just, like you were walking through and you were like a celebrity. And it was like, and you were with Kevin that you went to school with. And I still, like, I started booking their Disney trips because they love Disney.
Exactly.
And, I just think, because someone stopped me at the McDonald's. I was giving him Mickey ears or something. They had asked me to give him something. So I met him at the McDonald's in Mitchell and I gave him something. And he had actually was an agent when Jada was in 7th grade. But he said to me, he's like, I don't want to make over $400 or something like that. And I said, why? He's like, well, I don't want to pay taxes. I was like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But he said, well, how many agents are you up to now? And I said, well, I think we've got like 100,
Yeah.
And I was like, I was proud. I was like,
Oh, sure.
We've got like 100. Like that's nuts, because a year or two ago I was thinking if we do this right, like our agents can make $4,000 or $5,000 a year. And but anyway, he said, well,
I wasn't thinking that.
No, JJ never.
I was thinking a lot bigger.
He was thinking so much bigger. But this friend of mine said, how big do you want to get? And this was around that same time that you had said to me. I mean, it was probably in the same month. He said, how big do you want to go? And just that little seed that you had planted in my head and that JJ had planted, I said, Expedia. And not even a blink, I threw that out in the universe. And it's crazy because like Travel Weekly puts out like the top 100 travel agencies. We actually don't submit our names, and there's a reason that we don't. Maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong. It just don't feel right. But we would be in the top 50. And I remember someone from Disney sent a thing. And he's like, you guys would be way up there. Why aren't you doing that? And I said, because when you do numbers, people start acting funny, and they start like they don't see the bigger picture of I eat, you eat, we eat. Like they don't see that. They see, oh, they're doing this and they're getting this, and they start doing calculations, and it's like people don't want to help other people, but I'm like, that's not what we have here. But I remember when my friend at Disney sent that, and he sent this list, and I was like, holy cow, like we're in the top 50, and Expedia is not even in the top. I think they're maybe top 5, but I'm like, we're not producing anything like they're doing, but it was just pretty cool to be on a list
Sure.
that Expedia is in. And it took me back 10 years when I was in that McDonald's parking lot and like a smart aleck said Expedia,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So
Well, sometimes if you label it, it's part of making it happen, right?
Yes.
Right.
So and then it actually anchors in your brain, and you start making choices that start making that stuff happen. So there's actually a lot of, and I sent you a quote yesterday. I was working on my book, and I thought this might be useful for MVP, but it said that just the idea that you can be lucky means that you start making actions that other people might not do,
right.
and then you become lucky.
Right.
Exactly.
It's like you make your own luck.
Yeah.
And you've been doing that. And thinking back to when you were at that table at the Persimmon Festival, and I saw you. I love to work with and talk and be friends with and give workshops to people who have ambition, people who are high achievers that want to work. So I do some work with the North American Hardware and Paint Association, trade association. But these people come into Indianapolis because they aspire for their stores to be the best stores in their regions, right? It's like I like with people who are trying to be the best, like an MVP, trying to be the MVPs of their businesses, of their industries. And if you've got that ambition to be better, that ambition to be great, to be excellent at what you do, it's like that's the people I want to work with. And I saw it in you. I was like, she wants to do something special. She wants to achieve something. She wants this to really go somewhere. And if people have that, and I think that's what MVPs become. When we come to this conference, the energy here is because your agents want to be like you. They want their own franchise to keep growing and to be better. And they go back home, wherever it's Louisiana or Texas, wherever they go back to, and they go back to those towns, and they're fired up from your message to grow that company that next year until they come back to the next MVP conference.
Yeah. And I don't know during that time in that tent if the company was recognized as From Work to Play or from Fast Drop Inc. But the reason that we named our company MVP is because we want to be known for being the best. If you think about the acronym MVP, what does that stand for?
Most valuable player.
Best
Most
of the
valuable,
best.
yeah, the best of the best, and that's who we want to be.
Exactly.
You know, having that ambition to get there, to get all of our advisors to think that way and to be that way, to be the best.
And you've done that throughout your whole company. Every element of it, you're doing it at the best level you can do it. And you've got a great team, great people, and you see it when you see the enthusiasm at this conference. That's real. It's powerful.
So I'm going to put this out there because it seems like whenever we talk things with Dr. Goldsby, they happen. Not sure how, but they always happen. So we were having dinner with Vicky Freed of Royal Caribbean on the Icon of the Seas. And we were just selected Central Partner of the Year, and we were sitting with 3 other companies. And they were all male-owned, ran companies. And they were billion-dollar agencies. And out of the $1 billion, I believe there's just one that's woman-owned, and there's no minority. You know, so I'm just sitting here and like they're all talking business, but I mean I'm sitting here thinking, why is there not more women in this club of $1 billion agencies? And I said to JJ, you know, because I always like to have a goal, like, and that's a very stretch goal. Like it's not like. I remember it for us to get to 5 million to 9 million took 5 years. So it's like, but once we figured it out, once we got that going, it went. But I said to JJ, I was like, I would really like to do that. I said, but I don't know that I want to sacrifice everything that comes on. So I said, you know, I put it out there, you know, I said I would love to be, you know, the next female or the first minority owned company to hit $1 billion in the travel industry. And, you know, I said, but I don't want it to be at the expense of the people that have gotten us where we're at. And I think that I never want to lose that the people that has helped us get, that's done the hard work, you know, because like we can always find somebody that's more talented, that's more, you know, but I've got to have my people that has believed in me when, you know, I could never not let you be on this journey with us. Like I could never, you know, you will forever have a place at MVP. You know, Michelle was working in our basement for $10 an hour, 10 hours a week, because that's all I could afford, you know, so it's like, and she literally could, I always told JJ, I said, if anything ever happened to me, Michelle knows how everything in here runs. Now, Courtney Canada knows how to read the notes that I'm taking on paper napkins. Like, you know, so I'm telling him all the people that would be able to decipher, you know, because back then we didn't have things in place, you know, but an agent once told me, said, we're all here just because of you. And I said, if you're here because of me, I've done a bad job leading you, because if I died tomorrow, like, would you just say, oh, well, that was fun, and then throw your business away? I said, I need to put things in place that if something happens to me, something happens to JJ, something happens, that your business can continue. Because to me, that was the definition of success, is that it continues. But so I would say my next stretch goal, I'm going to call it a stretch goal because I know it'll take a lot of work and it'll take a lot of focus to get there. But I would really like to see MVP join that $1 billion, that $1 billion club.
It's going to happen. We know it.
See, he's not even surprised. Like, he's like,
it's happen.
It's like, because what little girl in Mitchell, Indiana says Expedia? Like,
well, and here's, I'm going to give you an observation from the classroom. Okay, so you're right. I mean, business was predominantly male, right? Men running things, owning things. So at Ball State, and I think this is happening across the country, enrollment in classes, it's 2 to 1 female to male.
Wow. 2
to 1 female to male. And I would tell you this from direct experience in the classroom. So I've been teaching undergraduates, again, young students, right? Used to teach graduate mostly, but I'm back in the classroom teaching undergraduates. And I would tell you that there is a real problem with young men and attention span. My male students are not keeping up with my female students. They just don't have the attention span. But the female students are ambitious and they've got the attention span. So I'm predicting from that the future is going to be female, and you're going to see more, because I mean, if it's 2 to 1 and going into with degrees and going out there, the world is changing.
Wow. And
it's on the ground, and it's happening at the younger. But what my point being of that is, you as a woman CEO and leader, you guys are always at right place, right time, it seems like. And you're coming into a time where probably in 10 years it's going to be predominantly women leading things, and you're going to be again ahead of the curve.
Wow. Setting
the pace and a model and example for others. And because of that, what I predict is, just like you're doing this podcast and really enjoy your show, I listen to it. My favorite thing is to go walking around the golf course. I have you guys on my iPhone, and I listen to you guys while I'm golfing, and it feels like you guys are with me on the course. It's really nice. But I can see it. I don't know if we've talked about this, but I think media is going to be your next. Someone's watching right now. They're going to watch a show in the future, and they're going to say, I like what they have to say. And we need, because there's going to be more of these upcoming women and diverse leaders coming up through the ranks. And you've done it. You were a pioneer ahead of the curve, getting in that top 50. And people are going to look to you more about how you did it. You're going to be an example for them.
Wow.
So that's coming, and I'll help you to get there as we have our conversations. And I want to leave you, also this very important piece of advice for your listeners. You guys are such a great example, because many of the great companies, there's somebody, the CEO or the founder, right, who everybody knows. But I'll tell you, more often than not, there's always a second person involved. And, with Walt Disney, it was Roy Disney. With Steve Jobs, it was Steve Wozniak. There are these teams, these people, and I would tell your listeners, if you want to be entrepreneurial, find that other person that you can be a duo You can be a duo, and hopefully somebody balances you out. JJ's got the analytical mind. You've got the intuitive, visionary mind. You two working together. When you came full time with the MVP, that was a major reason why in that 5-year period you got to Orlando. When you came full time from Jasper Furniture and became full time, I knew that. As soon as JJ could do that you two together, because I seen you guys just talking about stuff. When JJ could put his full attention on the company, you two together, it was 1-on-1 making 10.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're still the person that people look to, and they will too in the media in the future, because this podcast is going to lead to more opportunities for you to get out there and tell your message. But finding that person, could be a spouse, could be a partner, could be a brother, could be a best friend. I'm getting ready to do some research on how best friend combinations are almost like family business, right? People that grew up together. Like, we come out of Mitchell, we have a lot in common. And now we're here in Orlando, doing this. But you two, as a team, when it became full-time team, full-time Eubanks, full-time MVP, I would tell your listeners, if you've got somebody like that in your lives and you want to be entrepreneurial, if you can bring that person into your life and make it combined, I think it's a big boost to the company.
I was telling Mike McCracken that I said, I know that like working with JJ and I, it is complicated and it does not make sense, but it works.
Yeah,
like,
It does.
I said, and if you can just figure out how to work with both of us, like it's a piece of the puzzle, but together, like we're like a dynamic duo.
Totally.
And it's like we don't always get along, and sometimes things are uncomfortable for those around us.
Absolutely.
And that's where like our dog and Michelle, like they get it and they respect that and they let us work through these things, because it's not always pretty, but the finished product is always good.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
And at times, Mike will have a 2-3 hour conversation with Jamie, and then have to have a different conversation with me for 2 or 3 hours.
Right.
yeah.
Because we do think differently. We're different people. We think differently, but in the end, we're chasing one goal.
Exactly.
We're chasing
Yeah.
one goal. We're trying to get to the exact same place.
And we help Jamie get to. We both help Jamie get to. And this is so important for your listeners. It's the concept of reframing. You're tackling with something. I can tell you, the thing that drives advancements, those stages, just like I said, we got to get more Courtneys, right?
Right.
It's getting an insight. So an insight is you reframe it in a way. It's like,
Yes.
that's
Yes.
the real thing is that. And once you can get that, it's simple, but it's based on a lot of thinking. Simple, powerful, but something other people aren't seeing. And then it's like we channel it that way. So I think that's where we help her get to those insights.
Right. And at the same time, the benefit of her being in the shoes of the advisors, I would never want to take that away. I want that insight.
Right.
I want her talking about these things, because we know how it's going to directly affect, the advisors. So we need that as an organization.
Well, the first thing when I saw Jamie out at the hotel when we just bumped into each other yesterday and we were getting ready to do this, first question I asked you was, so, okay, Jamie, what's keeping you up at night right now?
You did.
Right?
You did ask me that.
Yes.
And then I shared with you. And you said, you seem to be handling it, because you've always been on every, it's so weird. You've always been with us on every hiccup or every less than magical thing. And it just seems that it happens once a year. Like it happens once a year, and it's like, so we either pick up the phone or we make some arrangement where you're always in on that journey with us. But you said you appear to be doing better, and I said, I am. I said that, like, and I went back, like the first time something similar happened, 2 weeks I was down for the count. Then and then it's like, it's never easy, because I always want everybody to be happy. I want people to love what they do. So when there is a sense of like things aren't copacetic, things aren't they're not okay. And it bothers me, because I want to make it okay, and I want everybody to be okay. And
well, I think where we've really done well with each other is getting into the psychological. I mean, seriously. And so it's like there's a psychological component of this. And I will tell you, I was having talked with your crew earlier, and we were talking about Peace being a former kindergarten teacher, and I was like, yeah, because everyone down deep is a kindergarten kid.
Right.
These inner childs, these things that we deal with. So we carry these things through us our whole life. So it's, we're trying to accomplish these things in life, but it's also in tune with our own personal journey. It's the entrepreneurial journey and the personal journey. So when, we're talking about something, it's like, okay, that's a personal thing for you. I try to help you not only deal with it from a business side, but also a personal side.
Right.
Because those things they both got to be
We
handled.
talked about that yesterday, about how the psychological aspect of all of this, because in my brain I'm still an agent, but yet I'm leading this company and then balancing. I have a new grandchild, and it's like trying to protect, my people. It's like it's just but the psychological part of this, and we talked about how when something happens, it takes you back to second grade.
Totally.
And I'm like, what's wrong with me? Something happened, and we talked about something that happened to you in the second grade. So you said but once again you said it's okay.
Yeah.
It's normal. What you're experiencing is normal, and sometimes we just need people to say, it's very hard what you are dealing with, but it's very normal.
So some people self-sabotage themselves because they think something's wrong with me.
Yeah.
There's something wrong. I should not be able to do this because there's something wrong with me. And you need that confirmation. Go, no, you're human.
Yeah.
Had things happen in life. They might be individual to you, but we all got stuff. And it's like, so that's the thing about making the hard things look easy.
Yes.
And I would tell you that, in JJ, your story, because I listened to your story, and then, Derek Anderson being tied to your story and all that. It's like, when we go through things in life, and I think it's the story of Walt Disney, you can use it as fuel or poison. So some people, when they go through things, hard things, they turn to negative coping, right? And they really go down. Other people turn their attention to something that they want to accomplish. And I'll tell you what that all gets down to is, and it's where insights happen, when you can get an insight that works for you, where are you going to channel your mind and attention? Because I tell you what, no matter how famous you get, no matter how successful you get, the things that hurt you through your life, they never go away.
Never go away.
They're in there. They're always going to be. They're going to be with you till the day you die.
Mm-hmm.
You can put your attention on those things and things that hurt you and harm you and make you feel bad, or you can put them on the future. And I'll tell you, can I share this? This is science. This is so cool. This is going to blow you away. You guys are going to go.
I know.
You're
I'm
go
like,
back
this is why
tonight.
I love talking to you, because you always have some sort of good something to. Like,
This will blow you away. So the way your brain works, back here is the amygdala. This is the primal. This is fight, flight, or freeze, right? So when we're stressed and the negative's happening, this is going on. That's the cortisol. That's the stress, right? The stuff that keeps you up. In here, down in this part, is kind of like your memories and, kind of the basic stuff. But up in this very front is something that we have more than any other creature on the planet. It's called the prefrontal cortex in the very front. It's called the executive decision making. But here's the thing. This is where dreams, vision, aspirations, hope. Remember Obama? Hope, when he had that as his campaign? Hope. It gets people looking to the future, gets them looking towards better things. Okay, so this is where this is activated. Okay, this is the heavy thing. You're going to talk about this tonight when you guys are together.
I've got another.
When this is activated,
Okay.
this isn't working. If this is activated, this isn't working. So if I'm dwelling on my hardships, we all got the hardships. They're in there. They're in these memories. And I'm dwelling there, this isn't working.
Wow.
When I channel myself to go, okay, MVP needs to get to this point in the next year, and I'm working towards that, that's fuel.
Mm-hmm.
This is fuel. This is poison. Fuel, poison. When the stress and cortisol's through the roof, can't sleep, body's breaking down, you're poisoned.
Yeah.
You gotta direct the attention back up here.
It just hit me. I have wondered so long why everybody says this to me. And I think he just solved it.
The V.
The V.
The V.
The V.
The V.
The V, Mike. You just clarified
V.
what I've been trying to get across to everybody,
Yeah.
because when I think,
Uh-huh.
and I'm in very deep thought,
Right.
and I'm thinking about the same things that you just covered,
Yeah.
I get a V
I know.
in the middle of my head. And you have said to me before, oh, I see something working.
Yeah.
You're thinking about something right now.
Yeah.
which is that V. You
Yeah.
have said that to me
Yeah.
before, Mike.
That's funny.
Yeah, I have, and I actually was telling Dan Cockrell, we were sharing this, because I said, I think you're brilliant, okay? I think you're brilliant. And I can spot brilliance in the eyes. And when you go into that V, and that V for vision, when you're going in that vision state and that front part's activated, like it's literally up here
Yeah, you're
activated,
right.
your eyes start doing this.
You said that
Yeah.
before.
And I said, oh,
You
he's
said-
going somewhere.
Yes, exactly.
He's going
His
into the,
eyes, you said
he's in a
that.
time machine going into the future.
That's exactly.
And
You
those eyes
said
get
that.
going. And I said, Dan, do you ever notice that? He goes, oh yeah, he goes in that place.
And you said his eyes go like he
Yeah.
hits the V, and then
I'm
he
like,
goes
oh,
like that.
I want to know
And-
what comes out of that.
And
Yeah.
it's so funny because like with the family members, they think it's when you're mad.
Yeah,
But it's
it's
like
not.
it's
No.
and so it's
And
so funny.
And I'm excited because I'm like, cool, I want to see what comes out
You
of that.
said that.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
And it's funny
Oh.
that you picked up.
I
where
knew
was going
exactly.
with it.
I knew
Yes.
it because I knew it. And I've heard you. I'd forgotten you said that, but you did. You and Dan were actually talking about that in 2020.
We were.
At the 2020 conference, you
We
guys
were.
were talking about that. The eyes going
Yeah.
like that, and you guys were laughing. It was like, yeah, like this.
But see, when he's doing that, he's here. I
Yeah.
mean, literally, that V, he is
Yes.
activating
But
this.
you know, like one time I was, and it was 2019, 2020. I had a lot of stress going on. You know, like just kind of taking things personal, like and that's my biggest problem is I take things so personal.
Yeah.
And I went to the doctor, and they said that what you're doing is killing you. It's the cortisone. The word that you used, they said
You were living
it's
back here.
poison.
Yeah.
It's poison, and it'll kill you. You
Yeah.
know, and I remember I started like meditating and doing yoga and stuff like that to help
Yeah.
to help get me up here. You know.
Well, and it's also to make you aware of where you're putting your attention.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what you're putting your attention off, it's positive. Now we
Yeah.
have crises, you know,
Yeah.
you got to deal with them, right?
Yeah.
But if you're always living here, that's why vision, getting that next stage, reframing in a way you can get to, okay, our next
Right.
stage is this. Now you're living here, and the thing is you're also modeling that for everyone around you.
Right.
And now here's the other thing, it's called emotional contagions. We soak up the emotions of those we're around. So if you're here, your agents are going to be here, your team's going to be here. But if you're living here and you're visionary and aspirational, so Walt Disney, when he was going around the company, he was going around trying to get everybody looking to the future, Tomorrowland, you know, the city of tomorrow. It was all tomorrow. We're going somewhere. And that's what you did, you know, from day one. We all sat down. It's like, hey, where are we going now? You know, and we did want to get to this big. We wanted to get this big, right? And it was going to take some steps to get there, but it was always what's the next. And you know, whenever we get together for this annual retreat between us, we figure out what the next year is going to be. And so you guys can live here. And his brain gets, you know, he naturally is great at that. But, you know, JJ, going back to the original story, when growing up, you know, in the neighborhood that you talked about with Derek Anderson area, you saw basketball as a way to getting to the next thing. Didn't know exactly where it was going to go, but you were looking to the future.
Right.
You could have stayed in the neighborhood, but you were going out of the neighborhood, right? So that's where we want to live. And part of the CEO messaging, like I said, you got a message. We're going to work on that.
Yeah.
Because that has to be so that your agents and the whole team can get that going here as well. So your messaging is putting them here, see? And because they're not seeing you every day like they used to.
Right.
They could just be around you and just soak up the vision. But now we got to do it in the communications. So they go, okay, this is where Jamie's taking us.
Right. Well, I think that JJ and I we will never be able to thank you enough for being on this journey that I don't think any of the three of us knew what the potential. We still don't even know the potential that it has or can have.
But we do have an idea.
There's
a lot more potential.
There is.
And we can't tell the MVP story without having Dr. Goldsby in it. And so having you as our first guest on Unscripted with JJ and Jamie is such a delight. We thank you so much from the bottom of our heart. And thank you for being a fan. Like, we don't have a lot of fans right now because it's a new
I'm your
podcast.
biggest fan.
So thank you for joining us on this
sharing so
episode.
much.
Well, and thank you for letting me be on your journey. I mean, I just love being with you guys, and you know, I get so much joy being around you. So thank you for letting me be with you guys for so many years.
Thanks again for joining us on another episode of Unscripted with JJ and Jamie, with our special guest today, Dr. Goldsby.
Thank you for watching Unscripted with JJ and Jamie Eubanks. Hey, don't forget to like, share, and follow us on all of our social media platforms. Thanks again.